if you're still stuck, you know, you're very aware that you're still stuck, okay? We know if we're still stuck, okay? And we can feel it. We can see, hey, I've got chronic guilt. Hey, I've got chronic anxiety. I can really feel that and really experience that. That is there. So if you're going and you've been trying that book over and over and over and over of leaving thoughts there, leaving sensations there, leaving feelings there, and it isn't working, you need to think about that, because in the OCD community, that is drilled home like it's a sort of mantra of thoughts are just thoughts are meaningless thoughts. And people are often saying that to themselves 50 times a day. Thoughts are just thoughts are meaningless thoughts. It's just OCD. It's just OCD is one of the biggest mantras. It's one of the biggest problems in the OCD community of where people are being taught to say that over and over. And it's giving them a little drip of reassurance, you know? And that's so important. Like with everything that I do, is really trying to make life structure changes, showing people that they need to make robust changes for recovery, that they need to learn to reduce fears, that they need to learn to have a good life structure. All these main principles that is exactly the reason why I approach everything I do from a life coaching direction, because it's so much about that. It's about acting in the now. I want to really focus on how we're making change in the now to life structure, anxiety skills for dealing with our fears. This needs to be shared amongst all humans. This isn't skills just for OCD. This is skills for life. This should be taught in the schooling system. Then people wouldn't get themselves into terrible situations. Some guy might work in the city, he might be a stockbroker, and he suddenly, all his life, he's wanting to make a lot of money and support his family. And suddenly he loses his job. Bang. Suddenly in that moment, that guy has got no tools and he might jump out the window because he doesn't know anything about rational thinking. So these life skills are key. I'm working with OCD because OCD is what I have, it's what I've recovered from, and is something that needs huge work done. So I'm working a lot on the OCD situation. My goal is to be doing a lot more broader anxiety and life coaching in general, which I still do a lot of, but I'm going to be branching out into doing a lot more of. But OCD is definitely the thing where I saw it's just that rigidity, that sort of instant fight to get rid of anxiety, that instant fight to get rid of something scary, that sort of instant internal reflex to push away. Okay? And that's a large part of it, as well as, obviously, the philosophy about our lives. That's how we're living, that's how we're viewing, that's how we're seeing things and experiencing things. We need to change that, because if we're still scared of all these different things in our life, no matter how comfortable we are with these thoughts, we're going to be too scared of too much, and that's going to cause a problem. So we need to learn to bring that down. And that is so key. So I think what you really want to be thinking about is you want to be thinking, the recovery journey is a sort of skills for life. It's an empowering journey. It's not a thing where you're just trying to get to OCD recovery, get to anxiety recovery and move on. If you look at anyone's journeys, athletes, different celebrities that have achieved huge things, and you look at things and they'll say, I had this really difficult moment in my life where such and such happened, and overcoming that changed my life. That's key. Those kind of principles, saw a lot of those in a lot of people's work today that's very common. The likes of Tony Robbins, you see him talking about those things. The likes of Gary Vaynerchuk, you see him talking about a lot of those things in terms of changing and adapting in our life to use those difficulties and that struggle to be the thing that empowers us. The bricks we get, the bricks that were. There's two different quotes. There's one that says, like, the bricks that were thrown against you, use them to be the building blocks, which I think is a great one. And then just looking at that struggle, looking at what can you turn this around to do? Like, so much people excuses, and this is terrible, and this is never going to get better, and I've got a reason why I can't, I've got a reason, hundreds and hundreds of excuses. But what about the one reason you can? What about the one reason you can make that change and become this completely empowered version of the you before that's completely seen things differently and is completely going for it and adapting and changing. That's where you've got to go. We're all going to have hurdles. We're all going to have problems. We're all going to have things that other people didn't have, other difficulties, other struggles. But what are you going to do to make those things work for you? Now, that's not just some sort of TikTok scroll down thousands of life coach-like speeches that barely cover any content and robustness. There's a million of them. It's looking at the real principles, breaking down those fears with the theory, really bringing those down. Looking at the things, the goals, looking at what you want, looking at why you can get that, why you can achieve that, breaking down what those fears are, using philosophy that stood the test of time of thousands of years. Doing that step by step, bit by bit, is what makes the adjustments and puts things into the process. You're not just going to be able to make yourself just think, oh, I'll just do that or I'll change. It's the same as you wouldn't see somebody recovering from OCD just by sort of wishful thinking, positive thinking. That doesn't occur. That's a complete myth. Where people think, oh, just sort of think positively or snap yourself out of it or really just go for it. You can't just really go for it. You've got to show the brain that there's nothing to be scared of, or you've got to show the brain that you've got a different relationship with OCD. But you can't just do the second part alone often. You will need to do the first part.